to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And only a couple more episodes left of 2023. And then we're off to the United Soccer Conventions in Anaheim, California. I cannot wait. And, this offseason's been not slow. Honestly, not slow with the amount of news we have coming out about player signings, about rule changes, the schedule dropping, US Soccer and MLS getting into it. So this episode's definitely needed to keep you guys up to date, which I'm sure all of you guys are up to date with all these topics. And it took me a little bit, right, to decide exactly what I wanted to say about MLS axing US Open Cup. And so before we get into that, I'll go ahead and give you guys the latest news in case you guys missed that. We'll go ahead and quickly go over my thoughts from the schedule dropping last week. And yeah, that'll be this episode. And then, like I said, maybe one or two more episodes until the soccer convention, which, by the way, it's not too late to sign up. Convention's coming super duper duper fast. So join thousands of other coaches in the event that's become a yearly highlight. Connect with soccer's elite, including Javier Zanetti of Inter Milan, Laurie Harvey of OL Reign, Jermaine Jones of Fuego FC, Leonard Griffin of Cal Men's Soccer, and Carla Thompson from San Diego Wave FC, among other renowned figures you don't want to miss seeing in person. Use promo code FreeKick24 to get you a special rate of $425. And this convention looks like it's going to be great weather. And so if you're on the East Coast, you want to get out of the cold, you want to be in the sunshine, head out to Anaheim for a fantastic 5-day soccer event at the Anaheim Convention Center. Again, Free Kick 24. Save you some money with that special rate of $425. It's coming so fast, and already getting a list of names who I'm interested in getting on the podcast. Kyle and Jillian are also going to be at the convention with me, and I know they're putting down names as well who they want to interview for the podcast. So a lot of great people this year, and still waiting on the United Soccer Coaches Convention to release the names of the other media personalities. So you guys might have to just wait and see who comes onto the podcast. But it's going to be a blast. But without further ado, let's just get straight into the news. So I expect all of you guys who have read about this online, had people tell you guys about some of these news topics that I want to talk about. First off, we'll start with the Chicago Fire hiring former interim manager Frank Klopas as the new head coach. Frank took over for Ezra Hendrickson this season. Klopas was the Chicago manager from 2011 to 2013. And now he's once again taking over that head coach title role. And this is an interesting hire from a team that's been in disarray for the last 6-7 years, maybe longer. And so I thought Frank did a good job, trying to steady the ship. But for a club that has new ownership, that has money, you would think that maybe they'd be a little bit more ambitious, but that's not the case in Chicago. So we'll see how long Frank lasts this time with Chicago. Moving on, though, St. Louis FC have acquired Chris Durkin in exchange for Jarrett Stroud and Lucas Bartlett and $300,000 in GAM. Chris Durkin, huge player with DC United, but with them getting a new GM, with them searching for a new manager, which, by the way, Bruce Arena has been cleared by MLS. He's allowed to continue coaching. Would not be shocked if DC United announce the hiring of Bruce Arena once again. And so, with a new GM, a new coach coming in, they're going to want to get rid of all the players that were in the old regime and bring in guys for the system that they want to play there in DC. So, Chris Durkin, huge player leaving DC United, going to St. Louis. Great pickup for them and some money. And two players, Jarrett Stroud and Lucas Bartlett, heading to DC. Going back to Chicago, should have stayed there in the first place. Chicago Fire have acquired Andrew Gutman from Colorado Rapids in exchange for Miguel Navarro and $450,000 in GAM. Remember, Andrew Gutman had left Atlanta United last season, got traded to Colorado, and now he's on the move once again, this time to Chicago Fire, his hometown club. And this is proven left back. Not much more I got to say about him. We talked about him in the past. He has experience winning trophies with Atlanta United, a big piece for them back in their heyday. He's played with New York Red Bulls, so he's been around the league, and now he goes once again to another club. Speaking of left backs, your Philadelphia Union have signed left back Isaiah LeFlore from Houston Dynamo 2. His contract is guaranteed through 2024 with club options for 2025, 2026, and 2027. This is an interesting signing because this is a player who played with Houston Dynamo 2, like I said. He led all MLS Next defenders in assists. And this is a player that loves getting forward. A player that's only 21 years old. Do not expect him at all to be starting for the Union. But Ernst Tanner and Jim Curtin, at the end of the season press conference, kept talking about development, getting younger. They get younger with signing Isaiah LeFlore. I expect him and Matt Real to fight it out for that backup left back role. And there's a signing that maybe in a couple years, maybe the Union do have their starting left back in Isaiah, but it doesn't hurt to take a shot on somebody that, like I said, led all defenders in assists, loves getting forward. This is what Ernst Tanner had to say. Through his recent play in USL and MLS Next Pro, Isaiah is a promising young prospect with potential to fit well in our system. He's an offensive-minded left back who is ready to test himself at the next level, and we look forward to contributing to his development. Saw a lot of fans get upset with this signing because, people want first-team ready players. And then after Isaiah was announced, the Philadelphia Union have also announced that they have signed homegrown midfielder Nick Pariano to a homegrown contract following a successful college campaign at Duke University. The 20-year-old YSC Academy graduate becomes the 21st homegrown player in Union history. Pariano will join the Union on a 2-year contract guaranteed through 2025 with club options for 2026 and 2027. This is a player who could fight for that backup number 10 spot. You have Quinn Sullivan that can play there. Joaquin Torres can play there. Daniel Gazag's definitely not losing this spot, but you have options. And again, I just go back to Ernst Tanner and Jim Curtin talking about development. And that's exactly what Ernst Tanner said in his press release. We watched Nick develop through his time with Union Academy and enter a productive and successful college athlete. We are excited to now bring him home to the Union. He is a very versatile midfielder who can play with both feet and his ability to read the game as well. At just 20 years old, Nick is a promising talent for the pathway to the pros, and we look forward to his continued development in our system. And you guys are going to hear a lot of that this season. Development. It's something that I think fans are upset about, that the Union are very clear on what next season's going to be, signing young players and developing them. And maybe we'll get a signing of a first-team ready player, maybe. But I think it's very clear that the Union really want to just dive in deep in developing players, developing coaches. And they've got two young players, both in Isaiah and Nick. And do I expect them to push for first-team minutes next season? Not necessarily. I think both of them will get a fair amount of time playing with Union too. But you never know, right? I mean, if both players come into preseason just like Jesus Bueno did last season and impress very well, then who's to say that they don't get opportunities early on in the season? And we'll get into the schedule because you think that last season was bad, playing 51 games. This season for the Union, with the amount of players that could be missing with tournaments, could be even worse. And so maybe, just maybe, both Isaiah and Nick will be having to play a lot more minutes than what was expected of them this season. But, if you're ready, then you're ready. But with neither one of them playing first team football yet in their careers, odds are they're probably not going to contribute that much, but we shall see. We shall see. The last two bits of news that I want to talk about is the New York Red Bulls have announced they've named manager Sandro Schwarz as head coach, pending the receipt of his visa. Schwarz joins New York Red Bulls after a 12-year playing career and head coaching stints with FC Eschborn, Mainz 05, Dynamo Moscow, and Hertha Berlin. I still think the club should have kept Troy Lozane. Did a fantastic job taking over last year for the club, getting them into the playoffs. But New York Red Bulls decided to go in another direction. The last bit of news I want to talk about, you guys have all seen this now, is Inter Miami have announced the signing of Luis Suarez. Suarez signs for the 2024 season with a club option for the 2025 season. And what needs to be said about a player that's done it all in his career, whether it be with Liverpool, whether it be with Ajax, whether it be with Barcelona, whether it be down in Brazil in his most recent stint. He's a proven goal scorer. And he reunites once again with Lionel Messi, Busquets, and Jordi Alba. And there's a lot of controversy. Will he be a DP? Will he be a TAM? Will he get the Gareth Bale deal, where he was a TAM player for one season, and then if Gareth would have came back the following season with LAFC, he would have then been a designated player. We'll see what happens, though. And this is a player that is going to score. I think there's no denying that. Like I said, he's a proven goal scorer no matter where he is playing in his career. And now I guess all Miami needs is Neymar. And then you can have your MSN connection once again. See people joking, calling them Inter Barca, Barca Miami. Lots of different names, but look, this is what Miami said they were going to do years ago. Sign big name players. And that's exactly what they've done now the last two seasons. Do I expect Suarez to play in every single game? Absolutely not. Do I expect Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, Messi? Absolutely not. But I was talking to my buddy Jose Nunez, and he brought up a really good point that Miami's probably going to go for it as a tournament team and barely scrape in to the playoffs. But then they treat the playoffs as a tournament as well, because it is a tournament. And so don't be surprised to see Inter Miami going deep in the CCC, going deep in Leagues Cup once again, going deep in the playoffs, and then barely scrapping by to make the playoffs. There's going to be a lot of load management with this squad because of the age. Yeah, I think the good thing is, right, the Union won't have to see Messi at Subaru Park this season because of Copa America. And I think I saw something where Miami fans made a list. There's 13 potential games that Messi could miss this year for Inter Miami. It's a lot of games to miss in all the competitions that they'll be in. But they still have other talent on that team. There's rumors that they're going to be close to agreeing a deal with Julian Gressel, the former Atlanta United, DC United, Columbus, Vancouver, wingback, midfielder, whatever you want to consider him. Played for Tata Martino down in Atlanta. So it makes sense why he would find his way signing for Inter Miami and playing for Tata once again. But this team's going to be nasty. I don't care how old Suarez, Messi are. You guys saw what happened with Joseph Martinez, a guy the last couple of years really hasn't been able to do anything because of all those ACL surgeries. But you bring in Messi, and him and Joseph had a great connection right away. So a lot of signings in MLS this past week, the past couple weeks. Definitely wanted to get that out to you guys. And so let's go ahead and talk about the topics for today's show, starting with MLS announcing rule changes for 2024. And we'll try to go through these quickly. Not a lot stand out to me. You guys wanted another DP. You wanted changes to the U22 slot. Not going to happen, MLS said. The owner said, nope, not going to happen. But what they did agree to change is off-field treatment, which allows medical professionals with time to assess and treat players off the field play in a less pressurized environment. If a player with a suspected injury remains on the ground for more than 15 seconds, the referee will stop play and wave the medical crew onto the field to evaluate the player. When safe, the player will be removed from the field and remain off the field for a minimum of 2 minutes for further assessment and treatment. Rule change number 2, time substitution rule. Maximizing effective match time, the time substitution rule requires that a substituted player exit the field within 10 seconds. Failure to exit from the pitch within the 10 seconds will cause the incoming player to wait for a 60-second holding period before entering the game at the next stoppage. During the holding period and prior to the substitute entering, the team will play down a player. Exceptions to the rule include injury and goalkeeping substitutions. It's a really good rule. I like that. It's trying to cut down on time wasting, trying to keep the ball in play for as long as possible when we're not having constant stoppages with players down on the ground, quote unquote, injured, faking injuries, and then they get up all healed and everything. So this is a really good rule. I know that they were testing this rule out in MLS Next Pro last season, and it helped reduce time wasting. I think I saw like by 98% or something like that. That's a significant amount of improvement. Rule number 3 that I also like, and this is in-stadium VAR announcements. Pending International Football Association's board approval, VAR decisions will be announced by the referee to fans in the stadium and viewers at home. This is really good transparency. Really, really good transparency. So fans aren't wondering what the call was. Well, now you're going to have the referee saying it to people watching at home and fans inside the stadium. So I like this rule a lot. Really good here by MLS. Rule number 4, stoppage time clock. Scoreboard, video boards, and or stadium clocks will run until the completion of each half, including any additional time at the end of either half or second half. Example, 95:04 would show up on the clock. So I don't know how many of you guys have been to a soccer game, but as soon as it would reach the 45th minute mark, the clock in the stadium would start running. You had to figure out how much time is left. So I think this is a really good rule to add to. And the players, had a pretty good understanding, I feel like, as is, okay, we have this much minutes left to attack, this many seconds left. But now you can take a quick peek up on that scoreboard and you see it. I don't know how many players will pay attention to that. But for fans, I think that's really good. You're not watching the game on your phone, obviously. And so some people start the stopwatch. Don't have to do that anymore. Just look up on the board in the stadium and there you go. Return to play equity rule number 6. Opposing players that simultaneously incur head injuries requiring off-field treatment who are subsequently cleared to return to play will return to the game at the same time once both medical evaluations have been completed. Rule number 7, discovery slot reduction. Beginning after the 2024 roster completion date, MLS will reduce the number of discovery list slots per club from 7 players to 5. San Diego FC will maintain 7 discovery slots beginning January 1st, 2024 through the 2025 roster compliance date, at which point the number of slots will reduce to 5. my whole opinion, they should just get rid of discovery slots. I think it's a joke, but slowly but surely we'll get there, right? Maybe in a couple years we'll get down to 3. And then the last rule change: general allocation money for designated player transfers. Following the transfer of a designated player who meets the TAM eligibility parameters, a club may now elect to receive a portion of transfer fees as GAM. Previously, any transfer or loan revenue from designated players could not be assigned as GAM. It's a pretty good move too. So some good changes in here, some that are like, eh. But overall, I think you look at this, not much changes the needle. Not much to get overly excited about. Like I mentioned, no 4th DP. No changes to the U22 slot. To use all 3 U22s, the teams have to have 2 senior DPs over the max TAM parameters. And then that 3rd DP spot has to be a young DP or under max TAM. Really, really, really big missed opportunity here by MLS. Because you're a league that prides yourself on developing players, selling players abroad, bringing in young players. And what better way to do that than signing players as essentially more DPs with that U22 slot? But MLS owners decided not to tweak changes to that. I think, again, just a huge missed opportunity where look how well Julian Crowns has worked out for the Union as a U22 player. Look at Alvaro Barrial with Cincinnati. 2 huge players with that U22 slot. And there's been so many more in the league that have gone through that slot, and teams that, are good with the cap take advantage of it. Teams that aren't, teams that don't spend, then we don't really see them take that much advantage of the U22 slots. But I think this is a missed opportunity. I think this is something that needs to be utilized a lot more in MLS because we want to see this league get younger. We want to see this league continuing to develop players, sell them overseas. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a development league. Because, the more and more you sign young players and develop them, the better and better prospects you're going to get signing for MLS. And of course, the end goal is to eventually go to Europe, play in a top 5 league, and have that kind of career. But I think with MLS continuing to sign younger players, it's only going to make MLS better. And who's to say that players don't wind up staying in MLS instead? Who's to say that MLS doesn't become a top 6, top 7 league? And players are saying, you know what? We're going to stay in MLS because this is a super competitive league. Yes, maybe I had aspirations to go to Europe at one point, but the money's good here in America. Living here in America is good. And the play quality is really good. Who's to say that that doesn't change here in the next 5-10 years? But for that to happen, MLS has to get rid of some of these rules. They need to bring in some new rules. They have to take advantage of some of the rules that they already have in play. Up the salary cap. And again, we won't see any drastic changes until the CBA expires in 2028. So we have a couple more years until we see drastic changes, in my opinion. And Don Garber always talks about, the goal for MLS is to see what we become after Messi leaves. But this is a huge opportunity for MLS. Messi's already in your league. You have Copa America coming next year. You have the World Cup coming in 2026. All eyes are going to be on America the next couple years. And the time to make better changes was right now. And that's not what these owners agreed on doing. And I get it. And there's already a CBA ratified. And to make some of these huge changes, you would have to hit up the MLSPA and say, look, let's go over this CBA and let's change some things. And I'm sure there's talks in MLSPA circles where, yeah, they would like to change some of the CBA. But then the question is, all right, what's the owners willing to give up? And then maybe there's some things in the CBA that the owners would want to give up. But then it's like, what do the players want to give up in exchange for what the owners want? So, no drastic changes this year for MLS. I don't expect anything drastically to happen until the next CBA. So, there are your roster rules in MLS. The last bit of topics. Oh, buddy. The one that got everybody ticked off on social media was MLS announcing they're axing the US Open Cup. And this is something I think if I would have recorded as soon as this was announced, I would have had a completely different take than what I'm about to have right now. And so I sat on this, I saw what people were saying, and then I came to my own conclusion. And real quick, I have to give a shout out to my guy, Jose Nunez, for allowing me to work on his podcast last week, work on the audio, being a producer on that show. He had on Amobi Okugo and Tesho Akindele, and there was such a great episode by Jose. If that's not something you guys have checked out, I'll link it here in the show description. I'm not sure if he has it out on the podcast feed yet, but definitely has it on Twitter. I'm not even sure, like, can you guys watch videos yet if you don't have a Twitter account? I hope, because this is definitely a conversation that people need to hear. I think maybe he has it on his YouTube channel as well. So I'll link all that in the show description. But they talked about a lot of great topics. The super draft. They talked about contract extensions, talking with the front office. Talked about miscommunications in the locker room. They talked about DP players' mindset compared to just everybody else on the team. Just stuff that never gets talked about, I feel like, around MLS circles. Definitely don't see a lot of journalists talking about, what goes in to a day in the life of an MLS player when you're talking about their money. So really good conversation there by Jose, and very grateful that Jose allowed me to step in and produce that show for him, and just really be a fly on the wall and listen to that conversation. And I think we talked off air about the US Open Cup, and I think hearing the different opinions, that definitely helped sway my thoughts on this whole mess. But anyway, MLS released the first statement and said, Major League Soccer announced that at its recent Board of Governors meeting, its clubs voted to have MLS Next Pro teams represent the organization in the 2024 Lamar Hunt US Open Cup. MLS will coordinate with US Soccer regarding participation in the tournament. The decision will provide emerging professional players with additional opportunities for meaningful competition. The move also benefits the MLS regular season by reducing schedule congestion, freeing up to 6 midweek match dates. And so MLS announced this. I believe they announced this on a Friday, and no good news ever happens on a Friday. And so with MLS saying that, a couple days later, US Soccer comes out and says, Major League Soccer has requested to allow MLS Next Pro teams to represent MLS in the 2024 Lamar Hunt US Open Cup. After thoughtful considerations, we have informed MLS that the US Soccer staff recommendation, which was adopted by Pro League Task Force, is that the request be denied. As we move forward, we will continue our review of the Open Cup to ensure it aligns within US Soccer's strategic pillars. We remain committed to addressing the needs and concerns of all of our members, including MLS and other stakeholders, to enhance and improve the US Open Cup. And so right after that statement, MLS comes out with another statement and says, MLS is committed to finding a viable solution for the 2024 tournament and is working to find a pathway that addresses its goals and concerns. Moving forward, MLS will remain focused on increasing opportunities for up-and-coming players, a key component of the league's player development strategy that ultimately benefits the U.S. national team program. A lot of statements going on here. And so my initial thoughts, like a lot of you, is, wow, MLS is killing the US Open Cup. the oldest competition of soccer here in America in 1914. And MLS says, we're not going to participate in it. We're going to send our B teams. And I was kind of ticked off about that. But the more I thought about it, does it matter, right? Maybe for Union fans it does, because I get it. You want to see the team lift the Open Cup. They've lost 3 finals in the Open Cup. And you want to redeem those demons. So I get why Union fans want the Union to play in the Open Cup. But the Union haven't had a home game, since 2017, 2018? Does that sound about right? And the Union always get knocked out in the first round. Just look at the squads that they throw out there. They don't care. And I'm sure that there's some players in MLS that say, why are we playing in this midweek tournament? And you look at the money aspect, where let's compare Leagues Cup to US Open Cup. There's so much more money in Leagues Cup. I think the total amount of money is 70 million, I think, in Leagues Cup. That's been given out to all these clubs participating in it. And US Open Cup, for winning it, you win a couple $100,000. Not a ton of money. And I think a lot of people, look at the US Open Cup because of the history. And, we all enjoy upsets. I mean, look last year. We saw Pittsburgh upset Columbus, and then Cincinnati gets a hold of Pittsburgh and beats them 3-1. But I think people enjoy the US Open Cup because of the upsets. And I do like the whole idea behind US Open Cup because it gives people in these lower divisions a chance to go up against professionals that have played all over the world. And who's to say that you don't impress that other team? And now they want to sign you. And so I think US Open Cup's a really good opportunity for players that are looking to get more eyes on them. More eyes than they get in USL 2, USL 1, USL Championship, and maybe even some amateur clubs, right? You don't have to just get the attention from MLS clubs. I mean, you could be an amateur playing, let's say, for example, the Maryland Bobcats, and maybe you impress so well, and maybe a team like One Knox is interested in signing you now. Just because you had a good game. And so you get more eyes. I feel like if you're playing in these lower divisions in US soccer, and maybe that's exactly what you need to further your career. I think I've seen a lot of people comparing, the US Open Cup to the FA Cup. And I think as a country, honestly, we've gotta stop comparing soccer here in America to soccer around the world. We gotta stop trying to be like other leagues. Why can't we be our own thing? And it's the same thing with promotion and relegation. Well, they do it everywhere else in the world. And so for soccer to be successful here in America, we got to do pro rel here in America. Well, what happened with USL? They said, yeah, we're going to do promotion relegation. And then that idea got scrapped because it's not doable. Or the way that it's designed in Europe isn't doable here in America. The money isn't there in the lower leagues. And you'll see a lot of clubs, if they got relegated, they're going to fold up because the money's just not there. And so, yes, this is a money decision by MLS to X US Open Cup because the money's in Leagues Cup. And I know some people are going to say, well, then why not play your B squads in Leagues Cup? Why not play your regular starters in the US Open Cup? And I think some players are going to say, no, there's more money for us to be earned here in Leagues Cup. We want to take Leagues Cup serious. There's more CCC spots up for grabs in Leagues Cup than there are in the US Open Cup. And so all of the incentives are in Leagues Cup. No matter how much I hate that competition, no matter how much other people hate that competition, MLS, they want money. They want eyeballs. And you don't get that from the US Open Cup. You get that from Leagues Cup. Because that's the whole reason why Leagues Cup got developed. Liga MX teams wanted the money that MLS teams generate. MLS wanted the eyeballs that Liga MX provides. And so you have something that is going to generate eyeballs, money, bigger players. Of course, MLS teams are going to want to take Leagues Cup serious. And let's not forget how many people go to these US Open Cup games. Not a ton. Not a ton. There's all these people on social media complaining about how much they love the US Open Cup. But if you've watched this tournament, it's a couple hundred people here at these games. And I get it, right? Some of those games between two Mexican teams in Leagues Cup was around the same. But when it's a MLS team versus a Liga MX team, the stadiums were a lot more full than they ever are in the US Open Cup. And so I don't think it's a bad idea, right? Axing US Open Cup. Because the money is in Leagues Cup, not in the US Open Cup. The development's in Leagues Cup, not the US Open Cup. And yes, you're going to get upsets every now and then in the US Open Cup, and we all enjoy that. I just said that. But I don't think axing the US Open Cup is that big of a deal. I don't. At first I did. I was pissed. I was like, oh, how can you do this? The oldest soccer competition. Yes, I want to see the Union lift a trophy in US Open Cup. But look at the lineup they've thrown out the last couple of years. They've shown that they do not care about that competition. And so if the Union don't care about that competition, why should we? Why should we? The only thing that I don't like about this, and I'm still iffy about it, is MLS said that they want to reduce the schedule. And that's great and everything. I agree. Yes, let's reduce the schedule. But if you really want to reduce the schedule, then you axe Leagues Cup. But that's not going to happen because of the money, the eyeballs, the better competition. MLS, Liga MX, they're not going to do that. So it's an interesting debate, and this is something that I can definitely get in to a long conversation with maybe people at the soccer convention there in Anaheim. Maybe Jose Nunez and I can discuss this. I know he's already talked about it on his podcast with Mike and Dave. So I don't know, maybe it's something we can discuss as well. But it's kind of my thoughts, my initial thoughts after sleeping on that for a couple days. Sure, some of you guys don't agree with me. You guys are huge US Open Cup stands. I get it, right? But let's go ahead and talk about The last topic. Try to keep this episode within an hour. We're already 48 minutes in. But that is the Philadelphia Union 2024 schedule. And shout out to Kyle Omni. He put me and Jose in a email chain, a Word document or whatever, Excel sheet, and tracked all the mileage for the away games for the Union so far in 2024. And the Union are going to travel over 25,000 miles. And that's excluding Leagues Cup, the U.S. Open Cup, or matches beyond Saprissa and the Champions Cup. And Jose, shout out Jose again, did a really good job looking at the amount of games players could miss for the Union with this schedule so far. And so you have March's Nation League final. Could miss Andre Blake and Damian Lowe for 2 matches. June, you have the Euros. You could miss Daniel Gazdag. If Hungary reaches the final, Daniel Gazdag will miss 8 MLS matches, but he'll miss a minimum of 3 because of the group stage. June, you have the Copa America, so you could lose Damian Lowe, Jose Martinez, Jesus Bueno, Andre Blake. 7 MLS matches if both nations reach the final. July, Olympics, you could miss Jesus Bueno, Jack McGlynn, Jose Riasco, Quinn Sullivan, Nate Harriel, Brendan Craig. And those players can miss all of Leagues Cup if Venezuela and USA go all the way. Then additionally, you have your FIFA windows in October, November, and December. And that could bring even more matches. And so we all thought that last season was terrible with the amount of games played. But man, if you miss Daniel Gazdag for 8 matches, we don't have a serviceable number 10, that could be an issue. You have faith in Quinn Sullivan, Joaquin Torres, Jeremy Raffanello, insert X-player here. Do you have faith in them? Missing Jose Martinez, that's a huge blow. I think this team's so different when Jose's not out on the field. Missing him a couple times this season, it's huge. I mean, Andre Blake might be the biggest miss for this whole team. Losing your starting goalkeeper. Union currently don't have a backup goalkeeper on this roster. No. Trent Holden is not that. He is not your backup goalkeeper. Expect the Union to announce a signing here, maybe in a couple weeks. More serviceable backup goalkeeper, but it's definitely not Trent Holden. It's definitely not him. So, I mean, the Union need depth. And they've not really done that so far. They've got younger, but players that can contribute to the first team right away, they haven't done that. And yes, I know there's plenty of off season to go. The Union have plenty of times to make moves. But they're going to need more depth than they currently have. When you look at the schedule, Union finally are playing Austin away in Austin March 16th. Can't wait to go to that game. It's one I'm definitely planning on going on. Nashville, April 6th, definitely going on that. Shout out to my guy Jim, flying all the way to England to go to a Philadelphia Union game. Going to be a blast seeing him there. I know a whole bunch of other Union fans are going. My friend Brad will be at that game too. So, there's going to be a good amount of people going down to that Nashville game. And the Premier League Fan Fest is going to be down in Nashville that week as well, April 6th. So it's going to be busy in Nashville at the beginning of April. You have so many West Coast teams at the beginning of your schedule. Sporting Kansas City, Seattle, Austin, Portland, Minnesota, Real Salt Lake. And that's it. And everybody else is the Eastern Conference. So you get all your Western Conference games out within the first 10 games of the season. And unfortunately, the Union don't travel to Salt Lake. Was really looking forward to going to Utah this year. But yeah, my initial thoughts just looking at the schedule. And we'll dive into the schedule a lot more, predictions, whatnot, once we do our 2024 season predictions. My initial thoughts are there's a lot of games this season, a lot of competitions. The Union are going to be missing a lot of players. They need depth. There's still time. It's not time to panic yet. But the panic will start to set in once February gets around and the Union still haven't signed any players. It's when the panic starts to set in. And so, let's hope. The Union announced some signings here the next couple weeks. As much as you want to say you hope these players don't go far in these competitions because the Union need them, for themselves, they want to do well in these tournaments. They want to go as far as they possibly can go, get more eyeballs on them, represent their country well. So you want the players to do well in these competitions, but selfishly, you want these guys to miss as little games as possible. A lot of holes in this roster still. Need a left back, need a backup goalkeeper, need a backup 10, need another striker. And I'm sure, I mean, maybe we're going to do an emergency podcast at the beginning of January because the Union have announced the selling of Julian Carranza. Now everybody's panicking. Oh man, it's gonna be a great podcast once the panic sets in. Oh well, Julian Carranza is officially gone, and now the Union need to replace him. Is Ty Baribo that guy? Is he not? I mean, it's all coming. Like I feel like it's just a matter of when. So let's see what happens. See what happens with this roster. Let's see what kind of signings the Union have up their sleeve. But one or two more episodes, like I said, at the beginning. And then it's soccer convention time. So if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. The YouTube channel, youtube.com/freekickpod. That's pretty much it. So check out Jose's interviews that he's had the last couple weeks. Check out Kyle and Jillian's show. They are crushing me with the amount of shows that they're coming out with. Shout out to you guys. You guys have a lot of content this off season with no games being played. So if you guys haven't checked out either one of those shows, again, I'll leave links in the show description so you guys can keep the Union content going. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.